Hello, welcome to the Canyons Are Calling podcast. I'm Cheryl's Jocelyn, your host for the show. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday season and you brought in 2023 in an amazing, adventurous way. My husband and I just got back from a trip to California where we went to Joshua Tree, hung out in some hot springs and desert hot springs, which was super relaxing, and then went to the ocean. We went out on a dolphin and whale watching tour and we saw like 2,000 dolphins. I'm not even kidding you. It was one of the coolest experiences I've ever been on. So if you ever get down to Southern California near Dana Point, check out Dave's boat dolphin tours or whatever. It was awesome. Anyway, we're here to talk about canyoneering, and I didn't do any of that on my vacation, unfortunately, but we did scramble around Joshua Tree and went to the bottom of Rattlesnake Canyon. That looked really cool. Unfortunately, we didn't bring our gear and didn't want to swim through the cold pools if there was water, so we just scrambled around the rocks and enjoyed the park. It was beautiful my first time there, so it was an awesome park. I have a goal to see all of the national parks, so just checking them off my list one by one, hoping to get to Death Valley sometime in maybe February, depending on my shoulder. We'll see. I'll keep you informed. Anyway, first of all, I want to shout out to my Patreons. I've had a few of my Patreons that have supported me the whole time. Shout out to Jake Huddleston, Skysy Crayson, and Jen. So they've supported me throughout this whole time, which just is really awesome. I wouldn't be able to do this podcast without your support. Also, people like Ryan Thatcher, Tyler Graves, Doug Murray, and Gear Perspective have also been supporting me for a really long time. So because of you guys, I was able to buy this sound equipment, and I really, really appreciate, all you do. I look forward to our canyon call on Wednesday, where we're going to be talking about what our canyon plans are for the year. We have a canyon call the first Wednesday of every month where we get together. Skysy has been like the one that is always on the call. She's always shown up every time and just eager to talk canyons, which is super cool. And then every once in a while we get other people on, which is really neat. It's just a really fun way to get to know the people that are, supporting my show. So if you would like to join us on those canyon calls, you can support me on Patreon. It's patreon.com/The Canyons Are Calling. And it's just a way to give back to me for creating this podcast and all this content. It does take me some time to research the stories and to do the editing and to do the recording and to purchase the equipment that I do it all on. So if you appreciate my time and my energy, you can just join us. I have tiers from $2 to $20. You can do monthly payments or you can do a one-time donation. You can also support me on PayPal, which is thecanyonsarecalling@gmail.com, or at Venmo. I'm Cheryl's Rocks, ROX, on Venmo, and you can also donate to me one time on those platforms. Enough about that. If you'd like to follow our show on Facebook or on Instagram, it is The Canyons Are Calling on Facebook, Canyons Are Calling on Instagram. I'm getting better at getting active on there, but it's been a learning curve. So I'm obviously not very technology savvy. It's all I can do to run this podcast. It's been really fun learning experience. Anyway, enough about me and the podcast. We are here to talk about canyons. And today I am talking with Buzz Burrell. Some of you may know Buzz Burrell for the fastest known time. Buzz is an ultra runner, an outdoor athlete, and a businessman. He's been ultra running since the start, pretty much, of ultra running back in the 60s and 70s. He's been in races such as like the Pikes Peak Marathon. And then he was trying to do the John Muir Trail, and he was wondering one time, like, what's the fastest known time on that? And so he and his friend decided to create a website so that people could know what the fastest known times are. So then years later, some friends were like, I wonder what the fastest time going through these canyons are. Let's go through Imlay, Heaps, and Kolob Canyon in 24 hours. Other group had gone through Imlay and Heaps, and they were like, we got to one-up them. We're ultra runners. We can do this. So that was their goal. That was their idea. And Buzz and I are here to talk about how that went for them. Enjoy the conversation. Hey, Buzz, how are you?
I'm doing well, Shirls, and I think here it is. We're recording this on December 20th. You work for Tom Jones. And so have you sent out last-minute Christmas gifts today?
You know, we're pretty much, I feel like, at the end of the holiday shipping. Today, I honestly had one order and then like a backpack repair that I shipped out. So hopefully people have ordered what they need to for the holidays. I know I was up in the middle of the night getting last minute holiday gifts ordered for my grandkids, so I hope they make it on time. But
in your position, you know who has been naughty or nice, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, there has been some really nice people in the canyoneering community. I feel like there's some people getting some really nice things. I'm jealous.
Okay. Right. You get just think if someone got a fiddlestick in their stocking and they said, okay, what is, I mean, you just look at some of these specialized pieces of gear and you go, what is this? But if you know, you know. If you don't know, oh well.
Yeah. The people that were on the early train for the critters were able to get critters, but we definitely sold out of critters 2 weeks before Christmas. We do have a boat on the way from Taiwan, so I'm thinking the middle of January we're going to get a ton more, so that should end our critter disaster and have those in stock moving forward. So that's exciting for everybody. We're also getting backpacks in January, so that's cool too.
Good. Excellent. Well, as long as people have a rope, it's probably going to work.
Got plenty of ropes. My problem with ropes is it's snowy outside. So once the snow starts melting, I can't cut anything. But we have most of the sizes in stock, so that's good.
Oh, you cut them out in the backyard?
Yeah, we do cut them out in the backyard. Mm-hmm. I should one day do a YouTube video of our cutting setup. It's kind of fun.
Yes. No, I hate to digress. We want to talk about something else, but of course I've been to the worldwide headquarters a few times, and I think I recall a couple apple trees right there. Am I correct?
Yeah. Between us and our neighbor, we have 5 different types of apples when they bloom. So that's exciting. And 1 pear tree.
There you go. There you go. All right. Okay. A little diversity, ecological diversity, unlike the canyons, which are a little thinner. Apples would not do well there.
I found out that there is 1 apricot tree in Zion somewhere. So I need to find that this spring when it's blooming.
Okay. All right. So you have reminded me of something I did over 11 years ago.
What's that?
Well, what would you like to talk about today,
the Zion Trifecta.
The Zion Trifecta.
So what does a Zion Trifecta consist of?
Okay, that's our actual topic matter. I named this after Jared Campbell, Ryan McDermott, and I did the 3 biggest canyons in Zion, 3 equals trifecta, in one day. And in order, that was Imlay Canyon, Heaps Canyon, and Kolob Canyon. And our goal is to do that in 24 hours. And we thought we could do this. I created a spreadsheet. I actually just pulled up my old spreadsheet and said, yeah, this is how it's done. I had the different milestones here of when you leave, when we needed to get to certain points. And we strategized this because once the clock starts, it keeps running. It's not like per canyon and you stop it. This is, start to finish. And so we started up at Lava Point and went downhill to Imlay, kept going downhill, and then had to hike back up into Heaps, and then downhill, obviously, and then drove back up to put in near Lava Point for Kolob, of course. And then we come back out at the MIA exit. And our goal is to get that in 24 hours.
How did that go?
Oh, well, Funny you should ask.
That's such an incredible goal. So we also wanted to know, okay, just so everybody knows, this is our second recording of this video or this interview because I messed up the audio the first time. And I told you guys that in my last post. So this is the re-interview. But so rewinding just a tiny bit, why did you put on the radar that you wanted to do these 3 canyons in 24 hours?
There's an old saying about this, Shirls, never ask why, because the answer is going to be elusive, right?
It's going to be the best story.
Yeah, so we try not to go there, because if you go there, you're kind of going down this rabbit hole of, it gets to be, middle of the night, you're doing this or that, and you're going, why am I doing this? No, better not ask that question. But if I was to answer that, I think we always push the envelope. It's kind of human nature. That's kind of what we tend to do, or some of us tend to do, and it's perfectly fine to do as the majority of people: go out there, have a good time, be social, learn things, be in nature, et cetera, et cetera. In canyoneering, it's kind of interesting because the top people, the most experienced people, to a certain degree, well, 2 things: they're exploring new things, like going on Google Earth, looking in the Colorado Plateau, finding something no one's ever done, and they're also ghosting, right? They do minimal anchors, minimal. They don't like to use bolts. They like to use nylon instead, which is actually odd to me since steel was invented a few hundred years ago and nylon's a product of recent industrial age. But leaving that alone, people are always pushing the envelope. It's human nature, using these remarkable little removable anchors, because if you can do the canyon, you can do it. Like in climbing, there's always something harder to do, right? You just climb 510, 511, 512, 513, 515. Well, in canyoneering, you're a little more limited in that. And so what came naturally to us was just to do them quickly. And part of it is that I am too old to camp. I just don't like it. I'm too lazy. It's just, cold, hard ground. Ew. So I just try to get things done in one day. That's my whole styles. I've climbed Aconcagua in one day just because I don't like to camp. I'm too lazy to camp. and
well, then you have to carry less gear, right? So it's not as heavy and daunting, so you can move faster.
Right.
Makes sense.
And I think it's safer because when you're up, just that last example, if you're up, around 7,000 meters or 6,000 meters, you're camping, it's kind of harsh. You're spending 2 hours boiling snow to try to get enough water. Well, if you just blow all that off and put a water bladder inside your insulated coat and just go up and down one day, it's just so much easier. I think it's a lot safer, but that's a whole nother topic. To me, speed is safety, but we won't dwell on that. So coming back around, Jared Campbell, the strong man of our party, he has finished the Hard Rock 100, this famous 100-mile trail race in the San Juan Mountains of Colorado. He's finished it 10 times. The guy is really good.
Wow.
Yeah, Ryan McDermott is a high school friend. Those guys drove to Las Vegas when they were in high school to do a classic test piece climb called epinephrine, and Jared took turns driving out there, but he's too young to even own a driver's license. So these guys go back, and then of course there's me, the old guy, and my contribution to the equation was coming up with the idea and also working out some of the efficient techniques. Because again, old guys are lazy. We don't want to work any harder than we have. Young guys, they're just going to go out there and just throw down. I don't want to do that. And so I worked out some fairly, I think, sophisticated methodologies to handle the ropes and to move us forward at an efficient pace. So that was my contribution.
And how did that play out?
Yeah, well, I think it played out pretty well. We wanted to, I didn't want to do this again. I wanted to, have one good shot at this. And so coming up in 2011, we went out there and pre-ran Heaps. And then we, and when day. And then the next day we did Imlay. And then our third day we were going to do Kolob before we all had to get back to work on Monday. But coming up onto Kolob, the boy said, well, we did this a couple of years ago. We know this. We don't have to do this again. I'm kind of bored. Let's go do something we've never done. I said, you sure about that? Yeah, we got this. We got this. So we did Icebox Canyon instead, just do something different. And we'd gotten our times, we gotten our tools and our methods down. And so when we went out there on June 27th, we were ready to hit it. We were ready. And so should I walk you through this?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. How did it go?
Okay. All right. I don't want to bore anyone here with the little details, but I guess if you're a canyoneer, it's
I think
mildly interesting.
Excited because you did some record times in all of 3 of those canyons. I feel like.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, we definitely did. There's certainly no one had done them faster. So we started at 3 a.m. at Lava Point and started, running downhill, carrying our wetsuits and our ropes. It's kind of hard to run, but we managed it. And then started what I call the entrance wrap of Imlay. And I'm looking at it right now. I created this spreadsheet in terms of how to do the entry wraps, because these are essentially big wall rappels. There's 5 of them in sequence. Right. And so I had I bought a 600-foot spool of rope. Wow. Of Canyon Pro, and then I cut it to the lengths that we needed.
Okay.
If you see what I mean. And
you
then
as you were rappelling through Imlay the first time?
No, I just, a couple of years previous.
Gotcha.
I just bought the whole spool.
Right.
And that way I could cut off a 300-foot section of it, use it for the heaps exit.
Right. Do like a 300,
300 footer is just
100 or whatever.
Yeah, you can rappel past knots, but
right.
You don't really have to do that.
Right.
Right. And so setting up for the entrance rappels, we knew which ropes to thread, which ropes to tie together, which ropes to beater block, because I had marked the ends with 1, 2, or 3 stripes of duct tape.
That's smart. Okay.
Right. And so we get there and, one person starts threading it down through it. Other 2 people, put on their gear. And then who's ever ready first jumps on and calls out, I'm off. And as you know, you never do double wrap rappels. You're only going on a single rope. And so the other half of the rope is in your rope bag, which is key, because if you throw both ends down, it's just tangle. So we never, ever put 2 ends down, only 1 end down. The other end stays in rope bags. And in this case, the other end is tied together. And so we get down, we pull down the tied end, which is marked, so we know which one to pull. And we know which end to thread, et cetera, et cetera. So we're doing this alternating in sequence, who's doing what. Then after we get off the 5th rappel, I coil up the I had a 50-footer. I coil that up and I just take off. Ryan's second off. He coils up the 100 into a different rope bag and he takes off. Then Jared's down last and he coils the 200 and puts it in a dry bag, because you don't really need a 200-footer so much after that.
Right.
And then just a little note of explanation here. The fastest guy should go last. It's an interesting way to look at it. Jared's the strong man. And when we first started doing this, he naturally started to go first. But I said, this actually isn't the way to do it, because it's really a relay race here. The relay is moving the rope forward. Right. So if you change your way of looking at this, and that what you're really focused on doing is moving the ropes forward, then everything else dials into place. And so I'm just running down the canyon, get the first wrap. I put in the probably a 50-footer. I set it, block it, so it's 6 feet above the deck. You just rappel off the end of the rope. We never unclip from rappel. We just go right off the end. And then I just clip on the rest of the bag right there. I don't do anything with it. I just clip it onto the anchor. And then Ryan comes, he just throws me the 100. Right. So I keep going. He goes down, he keeps going. We set up the 100. And now Jared's catching up with us. And he's grabbed and pulled the 50. And he just throws the rope bag ahead. See what I mean?
Right.
Because so the fastest guy has more work to do, so they should go last. And then we're just trying to move the ropes.
Forward.
It's an interesting way to look at it.
For sure. That definitely moves you
We,
faster. I know there's been a lot of
yeah,
times when I'm doing like birch and you're just waiting for that rope, and sometimes it seems like forever, even if it's only a few minutes. But that's a smart way to put the fast guy last.
yeah. It's kind of an attitude. It's an approach. The point is like a baton in a relay race, and the rope is the baton.
Mm-hmm.
The ropes sometimes, and you can just toss them forward. The fast guy brings them up the fastest. And then I also use this weird yellow polypropylene ski tow rope. It's just that weird plastic stuff you can get at Costco. And so sometimes we would double wrap that, just Batman it. We wouldn't wrap it, we just Batman it.
Oh, wow.
If you see what I mean. So instead of actually setting up using the anchors and setting up a block rappel, et cetera, I would just run both ends of the ski tow rope through and just Batman it down. Make 4 moves hand over hand, and just let go. And so that's pretty quick too.
On the short stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, for the short stuff, because I don't really want to jump into pools.
Yeah, that's what
to me.
Breaks ankles.
I mean, it's super fun. I mean, what could be more fun? You're in this canyon, this big giant splash. It echoes everywhere. It's really dramatic. But if you hit the bottom, I'm not big on. I know it sounds like I'm a little adventurous, which I guess I am, but I'm very calculating in what I do.
Right. I mean, speaking of that, we actually, the first time I went through Imlay Canyon, we had one guy that would normally check the depth of the pools, and if it was deep enough, the rest of us would jump, and if it wasn't deep enough, we would rappel. And one guy was like, the tester guy got behind in the group. And so one guy got a little anxious, and he was like, well, they've all been deep enough. And so he jumped anyway and blew out his knee. Luckily, we were close enough to the end of the canyon that it was just like, oh, my knee hurts, whatever. And he was able to finish the canyon. But later, like, has not been canyoneering with us since, because
Not cool.
not cool. And had he waited,
Right.
5 minutes for the other guy to come up behind him, his knee would probably still be in great shape today.
Right. This is true. We're moving as quickly as we can, but at the same time, I readily recognize that if you blow out your knee, if you break your leg, if you do something like that, that's maybe 2 months off
at least.
versus
Right.
2 minutes. So,
Right.
let's be strategic.
Yeah, and they had a rope with them too. So he and the other guy could have set a rope, but he was just impatient. And because the other pools had been deep enough, he assumed it would be okay. And it was way more shallow than the rest of them. So that's unfortunate.
Right.
Anyway, back
Experience
to your story.
helps.
Yeah, for sure.
I've written an article on safety in the mountains, by the way, for Ultra Running Magazine. And of course, I always want to give you the gear list. Always this list, all the things you have to take, none of which I ever take. I think it's all pointless. I think the only thing you really got to take is a personal locator beacon. But the best piece of gear is located between your ears. I mean,
Right.
judgment. I mean, you really just don't mess it up.
I
right?
agree.
It's
Leave
just
the ego
not
at
worth
home
it.
and use good judgment for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yep.
well said. Anyway,
So we go
back to your
ripping
story. You're ripping through Imlay.
through the crossroads. I think it's called the crossroads. And there's people there who would camp there that night. They're just getting out of bed. They're getting out of camp for their second day, and we come jogging through with our black wetsuits on. And they yelled out, "Is this some kind of reality TV show?" And I just kind of waved and said, well, no, sorry. But when I first started doing this, I used dry suits, but you get a rip in that, and you're freezing, and they're really bulky, and wetsuits are really grippy. So there's a lot of weird, funky down climbing you can do wearing a wetsuit just by slithering, which you don't want to do in a wetsuit. So we switched to wetsuits, and we had vests with full hoodies. We had gloves, because I don't really like to get cold either, to be honest.
Right. So how long did it take you guys to do Imlay?
We ended up at Temple of Sinueva, the trailhead, in 6 hours, 32 minutes.
That's incredible. I was
It was
like
quick.
less than half the time it took me to do half of Imlay.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And then we had received special permission to stash a car up there. So we drove a car up there the previous night. So we got in our car, didn't have to wait for, instead of waiting for the shuttle bus, and went down to the Grotto trailhead and then started schlepping up to the West Rim trailhead. And it's kind of odd because now it's like, 95 degrees and got, wet wetsuits in your back. So it's sort of an odd experience.
Yeah.
But we got back up there and started the entrance wraps on Heaps, which we had dialed also, and then started running back down to where the narrow start. And then Heaps was in good shape. Imlay, oddly, they're a little different. Imlay was like half full, so we had to use some hooking and had to, how that goes, had to use some special techniques for Imlay. But Heaps was mainly clear and cold, full clear and cold, so it was in very good shape.
Yeah.
And then so that went well, and started the exit sequence, which you don't want to mess up.
No.
Because it's possible to rappel past the first bolts, which someone did. Was it this year or last year? There's a fatality in Heaps.
I think it was
they
about
rappelled
a year ago now, actually. It was the end of last year.
Pardon me?
I think it was about
Last
a year
year?
ago now. It was the end of 2021.
Yeah. He rappelled past the first bolts. Apparently didn't have any I use T-blocks because, they weigh an ounce and a half.
Well, actually, what Tom was telling me is that they found his backpack at the bottom. And so I feel like he was trying to get his ascenders out of his backpack and dropped his backpack.
Oops.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I don't know if I should leave that on the podcast, but that's what I have heard, is that they did find his backpack like exploded on the bottom. So that's really unfortunate.
In my opinion, it's a bad thing, and we should talk about it.
Yeah.
And right now we're talking about our successful trifecta, but you learn way more from failure.
I do cover a lot of accidents on the podcast.
Okay. All right. Well,
And I mean,
it's real.
if anyone in that group wants to reach out to me and cover that story, I would really like to cover that and do a tribute to the guy who passed away, because I feel like that would be great. So reach out to me if you want to talk about that story.
And condolences to his friends, his families, and his partners. That was a tragic event.
Tragic, for sure.
And yet to mention it is okay, because that can help other people not do that.
We all need to learn to not do. And that's part of the point of the podcast, is to help people not get in those situations. So, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we should.
Thank you, Shirls. Appreciate that. And so, just as on this very same note, so we're whipping through this. We're going as fast as we can. We're having a good time, and I think we're being safe because I have T-blocks clipped to my harness.
Yeah,
they're not in my pack.
Right.
And T-blocks are pretty thin, but they work. I've tested them. Weigh an ounce. I carry 2 ounces and a half each, and 1 foot loop. Clip the other one to your harness, and you could go back up a rope.
I do want to point out that they do not work on the thin ropes that people are using now. So if you need to practice. If your rope's thinner than like 8.3, test out the T-block. It may not work. I did have some problems in one canyon because the rope was too thin for the T-blocks.
Good call.
Luckily, somebody in the group had a different set of ascenders and they were able to switch over, but that is something to point out.
Thank you. Thanks for pointing that out. Your listeners appreciate you. Yeah. In fact, it was just into this summer, 2022, that is, that an unfortunate woman died of hypothermia in the Narrows.
Yeah.
I had this is a hiker in the Narrows. So, and then someone perished rappelling off the end of a rope in Death Valley last month. So, again, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer here, but all are trying to say that I'm just going to interject this here if you don't mind. Here's my saying here. So feel free to repeat this. It's be safe, have fun, go fast, in that order. The order mixed up.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm really into going fast, but you start with being safe. Second is have fun. third is go fast. So don't get the order mixed up, and things should go okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then we use, I don't know, by at least is the standard method at that time, which the day before when we stashed the car, we had carried that 300 footer up to the base of Emerald's pool and dropped it there. So we get in the exit sequence of Heap, of course, you come down with being lowered by one person and rappelling from the knot. And of course, the spectators down Emerald pools are going, they're in awe, they're in shock because the rope doesn't reach the ground.
Right. Like, what are they doing? They're crazy.
Yeah, this doesn't look right. I mean, if I was a spectator, didn't know the technique, I'd just be screaming at them, the rope doesn't reach. But of course, with the person lowering you from above, it actually does reach. And then you tie on the 300 footer, they haul it back up, and then they get to come down on a non-knotted rope. And then go down, get in the car, eating a lot of food and drinking as much as we can, and drive back up to the top and start down. So then Heaps, trailhead to trailhead, when we started hiking till we got down to the bottom, was 7 hours, 38 minutes. And we had done it under 7 hours on our pre-run a couple weeks before, but 7:38 was fair because, we'd just done Imlay, so we'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if anybody has done Heaps in less than 8 hours, they should reach out and let us know.
Right.
Imlay
I
too,
was on the
wow.
I was on the canyoneering list at the time, and only one other party had tried that double, and they did it in 23 hours, 6 minutes. And so our total is 14 hours, 10.
Was that Tom's group?
I don't know. I don't recall. I think it was Steve Brezovic.
Oh, right. Okay.
I think. I don't know.
Nice.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
We had lunch with Oddly this April out in Berkeley. So then we drive up, go up the top, and we're on track. Looking at my little spreadsheet. Everything is going well. And we wanted to get down Kolob and rope while it's still light, because I don't really like to do that much in the dark either. Again, I'm sort of a wuss. And so we start Kolob at 7, and then we pulled down that last rope for the last rappel and switched on the headlamp. Right at that moment, it's like, okay, we got this.
That's incredible.
We're done. The technical work was done. And then we start forcing it down Kolob. And then it got interesting. It's like, where's the MIA exit? I had never done it. Only other time I'd done Kolob, I just went all the way out to the bottom. Because, distance is fine with me. I can handle distance.
Right.
But for this, we wanted to didn't want to go all the way out. That would have taken a long time.
Right.
Those two had done it, but they couldn't remember where it was. It's like, oops, it was 11:45 p.m.
instead of doing icebox last time.
What's that?
Maybe we should have practiced instead of doing icebox last month.
Well, this was my thought as well. But I was with fantastic people, really strong partners.
Having a great time.
If we would have indeed done it a few weeks ago, this would have been a piece of cake, but we didn't. And so Jared just took off, just went straight up the slope, no trail, no path. Then Ryan wasn't liking it, so he kind of stalled out. I wasn't sure what to do. I hung back with Ryan and said, okay, we can do this. It got into this odd little, supportive, try to keep the group together type thing. Because Jared's going to power out of anything. We know we can do it. Ryan was sketching a little bit. I was in between. And so it did go. I mean, I think we were close to the exit. We never found it, but we ended up on this Jeep track up on top. And then all of a sudden, we didn't know whether to go left or right. And there's this horizontal Jeep track. And we said, well, see, this was 2011. Our GPX technology wasn't that good. Nowadays, just whip it out on Strava. I mean, it's everywhere.
Right.
Use Gaia all the time and just whip it out. Just boom, right there. There's a little blue line.
Yeah.
There's a blinking blue dot, piece of cake. We didn't have that. We guessed right, turned right, went to the end of that road. It dead ended. And we went, oops, it was left.
Man.
So there went our 24 hours. So then we just took our foot off the gas, casually hiked back to the left, which went right up to the top. It was a nice night, starlit night. It was beautiful. I wrote my notes. I could see Mars rising in the east. It was a beautiful, astronomical conjunction. And we got back up to the car at 4:03 a.m. So that's 25 hours, 3 minutes. So we missed the 24 hours because we messed up the MIA exit. But it was a good trip. We were safe. We had fun. I was with two great people.
You know what? Kudos to you, because I feel like, number one, doing the MIA in the dark is going to be challenging, even if you know the route. And I don't feel like anybody has come close to doing all three of those canyons in that amount of time ever. So last time we recorded, we shouted out that if anybody has, they should let us know. So yeah, let us know.
Yeah.
Like, if you've done Imlay in less than, what was it, 7 hours? Heaps in less than 8.
It was Imlay 6:32, trailhead to trailhead. Heaps 7:38, and I didn't calculate. So Kolob took a long time because we started at 7 p.m. and didn't pop out till 4 a.m. So that's 5. That's 9 hours there.
Yeah.
We putzed around on that slope. It was too bad. Oh well.
But still, after those 2 exhausting canyons, and then you're doing Kolob and the MIA, like, that's really impressive.
Really thank you.
Times.
Thanks.
First of all, we should, not first of all, but now that we have covered this story, we should backtrack to your previous history before the Zion Trifecta. So you invented.
I've done a few things.
So you're an ultra runner to start with, right?
Yeah, and I've done some climbing and ultra runs. Yes. Mm-hmm.
And how about the fastest known time?
Oh, right. Yeah, I started the La Sportiva mountain running team, which was a group of people. I sponsored some races there. I worked in the outdoor industry. And then I took the job as the head person at Ultimate Direction. And so we were a manufacturer, still are a manufacturer of hydration gear, packs, and clothing for runners, hikers, climbers, and skiers. We had distributors in 21 foreign countries. So I was, very active in the outdoor industry. Then left that and co-founded Fastest Known Time. So everyone's heard of Fastest Known Times, presumably. And I co-founded that website and popularized the term. So now it's in worldwide use in many of the endurance sports. So I kind of helped get that whole scene on the road.
That's awesome.
Thank you. That was always my ilk. I wasn't, I did, here we are in 2022, I did 16 races this year, but really FKTs, adventures, exploring, that's really my forte. The only reason I did races this year because I changed to a new age group so I could shamelessly poach the old guys. Basically, this is the age group where you look in the obituary column to see who your competition is not going to be. So I decided.
I know that you're not supposed to ask questions like this, but you're up there in age. So if you, do you want to say how old you are, or just over a certain?
Yeah, this is the age group that's normally listed in the obituary column.
Yeah. So, I feel like you are in better shape than me, and I am probably half your age. So I'm way less than half your age. Way more than half your age. But I feel like you are in way better shape and can do so much amazing things. I go for the slowest known time just because I get into just the rocks and the everything around me. So for me to be we want to do the rim to rim in a day, and I'm I want to do the rim to rim in 3 days because I want to see every little detail on the trail. And so it just blows my mind that you guys rush through Imlay in 6 and whatever hours, It's it's incredible to me.
Well, thank you,
That's
Cheryl.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I am 71 years old right now. So
Okay.
we did this, I think, was I 60? Something like that. Maybe just about turning that year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can get a few things done. There's no doubt about it. And part of it is, like I said, I don't really like to camp. You know, I'm just too lazy. I'm just a wuss. You
Well, you just
people are
like
all
to be cozy
tough.
in
You know, you
your
do all
nice, comfortable bed.
right. I just want to
Thermal
go out
rests
there
are
and
not awesome. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I get it.
yeah, I just style. I really appreciate your style. The slowest known time. This is excellent. I mean, what's the rush? Might as well enjoy the place, enjoy being out there.
I'm like
And generally
slowly with Shirley. That's how it is.
generally speaking, I do a lot of my projects. I do twice. And the first time is in part to scout it out, and also because, like you said, I want to really appreciate and see it. And if I'm out at night, I can't.
Right.
You know, so some of these things go all day and into the night, and then it's like, into the night's not that much fun.
Yeah.
So I tend to do things twice for that very reason.
Okay, so you'll do it slow so you can appreciate all the nature and beauty around you, and then you'll do it fast to get the thrill out of going fast.
Yeah, and I
Cool.
it's not I'm not, if you don't mind, I don't feel, for me, I don't
Right.
experience it as a thrill.
Okay.
I experience it as this combination challenge, of true athleticism, where it's a combination of physical, mental, and emotional. So to me, that's what athleticism is. You look at La Copa Mundo, which just finished, the World Cup,
Yeah.
and you can't take the mental and emotional out of that event. Just like with what we did on the Trifecta,
Right.
it's a package deal.
Definitely.
You got to have it upstairs. You can't just be some strong guy. This won't work. Emotionally, you have to have peace in the backcountry. My friend Peter Backwin said that. My friend Peter Backwin did the Hard Rock Double. He did Hard Rock Course, which is 100 miles, a little more than that, and 33,000 feet of elevation gain. And then as soon as he finished, he started the actual race and did it in the other direction. And he said, you have to make peace with the mountains. You know, you're reading something in the media, journalists, they say, and they conquered the mountain. Well, people who do this never say that. It's just unthinkable to use that terminology.
It's like the media says that, but the people that are doing it do not do that because they know that the mountain gives them permission to go there. They don't conquer anything.
No, this is no one I know would ever say that, let alone think it.
Right.
You know, we want to be in harmony. That's kind of what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like the combination of mental, physical, and emotional, and if I may say, experience, learning. You know, as you can tell, I'm kind of a fun-loving guy, but behind that, I'm paying attention.
Right.
You know, but by far the best endurance athlete of his generation is Kilian Jornet. A lot of people have heard of him. If not, you can look him up. And he says the same thing. You know, practice, train, experience. You don't start with these bold strokes. No. You start and learn the game, learn the ropes, excuse the pun.
That's well said. Even in like the wintertime, we just sit and practice nods. Like it gets dark so early, and what do, right? So my husband and I, just to keep the knowledge fresh, we just practice knots and practice anchor building. And I mean, it's maybe like weird, but yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, like
that's a good story.
In addition to, just like watching Netflix and whatever, when it gets dark early, like, yeah, keep your skills fresh.
Right. And you could do your strength and stretching program before dinner if you wanted to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, working out and strengthening. That's definitely part of it.
Excellent. Well, yeah. Cheryl, it's a delight talking with you. This was years ago for me. None of the three of us have been back to the canyons in years. Just kind of moved on and do other things now.
Right.
But this was so fun. Jared and I, we look back on this as one of the most fun times of our lives. And Jared in particular says Zion is just a magical place. He and his wife were married on top of Observation Point, in fact.
Oh, wow.
Just kind of skipped the permit on that one, but and then his mother was up there. She carried her violin and was playing up on Observation Point, and these two eagles started soaring overhead. So it's extraordinary. It's fantastic.
Yeah, Zion's definitely magical. My husband and I met because of Zion, so it has a special place in my heart too.
And you live right at the boundary.
It's what keeps me in the area for sure.
I've listened to your podcast. I really appreciated the Anchor Initiative person whose name I don't recall right now.
Oh, yeah, Tyler Miller.
Yeah, call out to him. I immediately went online and donated to his Anchor Initiative because personally, I think, good grief, if there's going to be a bolt, it should be a good bolt.
Definitely.
I mean, spinners are just not a thing. And so he's got good technique, good technologies, going in there and taking out the garbage and putting in clean stuff. And why not be safe? I mean, there's no reason to risk your life with a shoddy anchor. It's not worth it.
No, definitely. I agree 100%. Like checking webbing is important. Like some people will be in my groups, sometimes they'll be like, oh, it's kind of crispy, but I think it's okay. And I'm like, we've got the stuff to change it. Like, let's just change it. Like, if it's questionable at all, I have heard too many stories of people perishing because of questionable webbing. And the sad thing is there was just this year, there was a father who his daughters went down on the webbing and it was fine. And then he went and it wasn't. And so if it's questionable in the slightest, like change it out. It's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
Not worth it.
I mean, just dying on rappel is like, huh?
Yeah, shout out to Tyler for taking on that project because there's some long, daunting canyons in Zion that need work, and him and his friends are doing it. So that's really cool.
Right. He was stimulated by the Anchor Replacement Initiative, the Access Fund does, and so in climbing, this is totally a thing. Because why you're challenging yourself to the max trying to climb something, and if an anchor pulls, it's like this is just being dumb. It's not being clever or going lightweight or anything. It's just being dumb. Yeah. And replacing climbing anchors is relatively simple. So if he's in these big canyons in Zion, wow, he's schlepping a lot of gear in there and spending time in some kind of cold places, in my opinion. Yep. So good for him. Thank you, Tyler.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler, for sure. And if you have the ability, please donate to his fund. It's a good project.
Right. And you had another woman on whose name I also can't remember who talked about canyoneering in Spain and other places in the world. I think she was from California.
Oh, yeah, Danielle Monroy.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that was an excellent podcast. And I said, maybe I should go somewhere else also. But she was really bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and knew her stuff. So it was fun listening to that. But mainly, Cheryl, I want to say thank you to you because, you have these guests on the podcast and you compliment them. But who is there to say, Cheryl's, thank you for what you do? I know people are listening and going, yeah. So can you hear them kind of in the background in various parts of the country going, yeah.
The fun thing is Spotify at the end of the year did like a collaboration of how I'm doing. And I ranked really higher than I expected in people's most listened to podcasts or even top 5. So I really appreciate my listeners. That's awesome. I had no idea where this project was going to go when I started it. So it's been almost 2 years now, and it's been really fun.
Yeah, of course, you're just making bank there, I know. So next spring, you're going to buy that new boat you've always wanted?
Well, or maybe a critter, I don't know, or a new hoodoo. We'll see.
Right.
I don't know that a boat's in the budget yet, but one day I'm going to be as great as Joe Rogan and making bank.
Right. You're connecting with people, you're having fun, and you're educating people with safety and inspiration. That's mostly
what it's about.
So it's a combination.
Yeah.
It's a combination. You want to do things that are safe, but that's not really the whole point. You also want to inspire people to go out there and maybe push their limits or enjoy something more, do something they haven't done before.
Yep.
And so you're able to do that with this podcast.
Yeah, definitely. I'm hoping that they're considering safety. And the question I ask all the time, what's your favorite snack?
Okay. Oh, right. Here we're winding up the standard list.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all right. So this would be the favorite snack in canyons, I presume.
Yeah, because it inspires me to get better snacks.
Right. I'll be poor advice for this because I just carry Cliff Bars.
Yeah.
Because when we're doing this in these times, we never stop.
Right. You just
So I
have
basically,
to hustle. What are
yeah,
you
we're
eating
moving
in
all
the
the time.
car between place to place? Like
Pardon
that's
me?
when you're actually refueling. So what are you eating in the car between place to place?
Oh, then I'll have gone to what's it called? Soul Foods, SOL Foods, that deli there. And we'll
Yeah.
pick up, they have really good quality sandwiches, burritos, things like
Mhm.
that. I'm not a junk food guy. I'm kind of the opposite.
Right.
I'm mostly vegetarian, in fact. But we like things of that nature. And of course, you always has to have some protein in it for this length. You get to 24 hours, you need fat, you need protein.
For sure.
So when we're going through the canes, I'm just powering down Cliff Bars because in this little waterproof bag, so I don't have to stop. I don't have to do anything. I just open it up and just be careful not to lose the wrapper.
Right.
And water. And then once you get out, then you have to keep rehydrating. Because you can go for a month without food, but you can only go a few hours without water. Keep that in mind, everybody. And so then we're
Right.
doing nice food in the car and always hydrating.
How about after the canyons? What's your favorite after canyon beverage?
Well, I think it's changed now, hasn't it? I think Springdale's different. But back then, it was the pizza noodle right there in the middle of town, and they had pitchers of beer. So
Right.
the pitcher's a nice way to go. And I always like draft because super ecological. I hate buying bottles and cans and you got to throw it away. Maybe it get recycled and maybe it won't. But if you get a pitcher, then there's hardly anything happening there.
Exactly.
So we'd sit down at the pizza noodle. I'd get a calzone and put a pitcher on the table and friends would come over. But I think it's changed now. I think it's like Oscars is more of the thing now. So, and I'm not up on it. So I was actually there in April, but I'm not sure anymore. But that's what we used to do. Pizza noodle, pitcher of beer.
Yeah, Springdale has changed considerably I've been here 10 years. It's changed a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how about the pandemic? Google millionaires were 32 years old can work from home in Springdale.
Right.
And so they walk in, they see something for $500,000 and they say, I'll take two.
Right.
So it's basically the locals can't live there. So everywhere, all over, the East, but particularly the West, the mountain towns, the ski towns, and maybe even the canyoneering towns have a huge
ridiculous
housing issue. Affordable housing is massive. We need to deal with this. This is a climate change and an environmental issue.
Right.
So pardon me for getting on the soapbox here, but this is part of the whole deal. We need affordable housing so people who work there can afford to live there.
100%. Yeah, that's happening all over the Zion area. The people that actually work in the tourist towns are living in fucking trailers and campers and hostels because they can't afford to live anywhere because everybody's renting out Airbnbs or just charging ridiculous amounts for rents. It's really, really sad.
Right. Well, they're down in St. George.
Yep.
And they're commuting up in their gas burning cars.
Right.
And the only way this isn't a market rate thing. The government has to step in.
It's not sustainable.
And I'm not a regulatory guy. I'm kind of a libertarian type of guy, but in this, only the government can do this for the greater good.
Right.
They've got to walk in there and say, okay, any developer, 25% of the units you build will be deed restricted, and they can only be sold to someone who's worked in this county for a minimum of 6 months. This is how the game's played nowadays.
Something has to change in this area because it's not sustainable and it's not right. You're right.
Correct.
People that have grown up in this area have to move to Timbuktu because they can't afford it here because so many people are inundating it. It's really sad.
Yep. And look
My
at the
grandkids
sprawl
definitely
at St.
did.
George. It's like, ooh, man, it's just no. Yeah. Utah's a great state recreationally, but politically, it's got some issues.
100%.
Do you have any other standard questions here?
Yeah. If you could go anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
Oh, well, I can go anywhere I want to in the world. And this summer, I went to the Alps. I did a number of mountain races in the Alps, which I like that because they have the steep, they have the technical, which we don't quite have here.
Yeah.
Here in the States, it's more bigger is better. You know, things get really long. There's like 240-mile races now. On the Alps, I did in Crimea, in Italy, which is the backside of Mont Blanc. I did what's called a double vertical kilometer, VK2. And so you normally measure races, obviously, in horizontal distance, 10K, marathon. But this is measured in vertical distance. So it's 2 kilometers uphill.
Wow.
And they don't care about the horizontal. They want that to be as short as possible. And so it was so fun. This event gained 7,200 feet in less than 6 miles. And the middle section was so steep that they required you to wear climbing helmets. There was 400 people in the race, and everyone had to wear a climbing helmet. Only in Italy.
That's incredible.
So I thought that was fun.
Go Buzz. That's awesome.
It was simple. You don't think. Thinking gets to be work. You don't have to think.
I hope I can get a better shape so I'm doing this cool stuff when I'm your age.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, something like that. But then we also own a condo now in Michigan. And so in the summer, climate change is not good out west. Back east, I think there's still climate change deniers, which is just insanity by itself. But out west, you can't deny climate change.
Right.
It's, when the air is orange with smoke, in California and Oregon are on fire, et cetera, and you can't hardly breathe the air. And so we spent part of the summer in Michigan on the water, where the Great Lakes have 22% of the fresh water on planet Earth. And I'm on that in my kayak. And so I do a lot of paddle sports. Now my paddle sports are my new thing.
That sounds incredible. How far are you from Isle Royale? That's high on my list.
Whoa, this last summer? Summer before last, I should say 2021, we went to Isle Royale, which is the least visited national park in the entire system. And it's the hardest to get to. Basically, this is true. I actually looked it up. From Michigan, and Isle Royale is in Michigan. Yeah. It's quicker and easier to go to Hawaii than it is to go to Isle Royale.
Wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. It's out there. So it's funny you should ask. So most people have never been. You have to take a ferry to get out there.
Or a boat or
a seaplane will do it, but that's a little pricey. Right. And so I ran from one end of the island to the other. You know me, I got to do dumb stuff like that. Just be an idiot.
Right. That's really cool. Is it amazing?
So, Cheryl, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Well, right now I'm thinking Isle Royale, but
all right.
Honestly, lately it's been Switzerland or New Zealand for canyons.
Yeah, I've heard. Where's that place in Switzerland? I can't pronounce it. As the bet.
Ticken. I can't pronounce it either. Ticken.
Right.
I'll have a link to it.
Put a link to it.
Or
right.
Something. Yeah. In my very last podcast that I did with Descending Nature with Tobias Beiser, we talk about it, and he says what it's actually called. Ticanicho or something, but Switzerland. Those canyons just look incredible.
I'll be there this August.
The rocks.
I entered a race actually in Switzerland.
Okay.
This August, so maybe I'll see about canyoneering. I wouldn't take any gear. That'd just be awful. I would just rent everything. I'd get a guide. I'd just whip out the credit card and say, yeah, take me.
Reach out to Danielle. I know she has contacts over there. So,
Oh,
yeah.
good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe Tobias.
Anything?
Because he lives in
Okay.
Australia.
Anything else, Shirls? Any other stock questions?
Any safety advice you'd like to leave our listeners with before we say goodbye?
Well, safety device, as I mentioned, the best piece of gear is located in between your ears. And I also mentioned the PLB, the Aaron Ralston device. So personal locator beacon is a thing. I use a Garmin Mini because it pairs with your phone. And so you could actually have fat fingers. So you can actually type messages on your phone instead of these little micro buttons.
Right.
When I used to have the DeLorme. So I like that. And also good partners. I mean, if you're going to, I'm going to ask you this question, Charles. So if you had the choice to go in REI or Canyoneering USA, and here's a $500 gift certificate, buy the equipment you want, or you had the choice of going with two of the best people in the world, which is it going to be?
Yeah, I mean, depending on the canyon that you go in, you definitely are more selective with the partners that you choose, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's safety.
Canyons like Imlay and Heaps, I'm definitely going to pick my partners more selectively than I will for like Birch or some of the beginner canyons, for sure. Yeah.
Right. When Jared, Ryan, and I did what we called Zion Man, we went from one end of the park to the other. We went from the pass, what's it called, Lee's Pass on the west end, all the way out to Orderville on the east end.
Right.
And we went like over the top of North and South Guardian Angels, crossed the subway, and then descended Imlay, and then went up Orderville to finish it off. And we were the first people through Imlay that year. There's all these logs. We were pushing our way through that, and some of the anchors were manky, and we brought some webbing. Fortunately, not enough, but we got down to the thick of the narrows there, and suddenly that biting cold hit, and pulled up the hood on our vests, and then we looked at each other, and Ryan just said, "No mistakes, guys," and we just looked each other in the eyes, right?
Yeah, right.
Nodded. And then we continued. So this is I never forgot that. You want that feeling.
Yeah.
When you look each other in the eyes and you say, no mistakes, and everyone gets it. And you don't have to say anything else.
Yeah, that's definitely a good feeling, for sure. I know what you're talking about. My last trip through Heaps, I was really selective with the people that I went with. And the group in front of us slowed us down a little bit. And so we were way colder than we wanted to be. But the one guy who was the most cold and probably starting to have beginning stages of hypothermia, he knew that he was in a bad way. And so he's like, the last rappel, he was like, I want to go down first and just start hiking out. And we're like, yeah, do that. And then if you get to the shuttle, go get the car, because we might not make it out. We did make it out to the shuttle, which was great. But if he hadn't recognized his signs, or the group hadn't recognized his signs, that could have went bad really quick.
Excellent. Good story. Well, Shirls, again, on behalf of everyone listening, we thank you for your work. Thank you for this podcast. It's fun talking to you. It brings back old memories. I hope I see you sometime. I hope I see J-Rat. I hope I see Tom again.
Yeah, let us know when you're in the Zion area, for sure.
Thank you. I will definitely do that. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks for redoing this interview, because that was fun. It won't happen again. I have 2 different colors of cords now. Anyway, the canyons are calling. We should probably go. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Buzz. We forgot to talk about his podcast. So if you're into trail running, or even if you're not into trail running, you just like podcasts like I do, his podcast is called The Trailhead Podcast. And he and his co-host just talk about ultra running, and I found it very informative, even though I'm not an ultra runner. Like, I'm the exact opposite of an ultra runner. Like I said in our interview, I go for the slowest known time. It's always slowly with Shirley, because I like to be out there. I like to enjoy the view. I like to suck in the scenery and the nature. And I often don't like to repeat the canyon unless I'm taking new groups of people, or It's a really cool canyon. So unlike Buzz, I don't like to go fast. I like to take my time. But if you enjoy podcasts, check out his Trailhead podcast. I found it really, really entertaining. Also, I have in the show notes links for his Zion Trifecta story, as well as the one that we talked about, Zion Man. Sorry. The Zion Man report is also in the show notes. So if you would like to read his accounts on those stories, they're pretty entertaining and pretty good. Also, like we mentioned in the podcast, if you have done these canyons in a faster time than Buzz has, please reach out and let us know. I know last year there was some people going through Imlay and Heaps super fast car to car, and I can't really remember the times. So if you've done Imlay, Heaps, and Kolob in less than 25 hours, please reach out and let me know. That would be awesome to get your story on the podcast too. Or if you've done those canyons in a shorter amount of time, like I think it was Imlay 7 hours, Heaps 7.5, and don't remember the total time on Kolob. But yeah, reach out. Let's get some fastest known canyon times on here. That would be kind of fun. And if anyone wants to keep track of those in a database, that would be kind of fun to follow also. Anyway, if you are enjoying this beautiful music in the background, shout out to Z, the handpan man. I really love just relaxing in the tub after a hard canyon day and listening to this beautiful handpan music. It's just really relaxing and enjoyable. Anyway, the canyons are calling. Let's go.